Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. I'm hoping you guys are all having a fantastic day. So in today's video, as you can tell by the title, we will be talking about a very large storm system that has the potential to develop across the country, including Canada, the US, and really Mexico. I mean, it's going to be an absolutely monster storm if it does in fact develop into this upcoming week. This is going to be something that's still around 6 to 7 days away. A little bit less, maybe 5 to 6 days, so it's still a little bit out. But again, this could have a pretty large snowy side to this. I'll show you which locations get impacted by that. So it's gonna be a snowstorm. There's gonna be a lot of rain for other areas and cool blasts of air. It's gonna change the pattern and bring in a lot more of a cooler pattern for a good portion of the United States. Some areas, breaking probably. There maybe even some records for how early frost and freezes could arrive. So yeah, let's start talking about this, and let's just get right into it. So first off, I just want to show you the current pattern right now. We do have a cool off that is kind of ongoing across the United States. Notice it's my area got a little bit of, we got our first frost yesterday. It was very, very patchy, but it was definitely there. And notice a lot of areas probably similar across the Midwest and New England. I was talking about this for the past several days, and that did end up materializing. So that is that pulls away. And what we do see, and this is the big important part here, we see a high pressure that's centered around the mid-Atlantic, really kind of northern Virginia. This thing really doesn't move much, but what it does do is it strengthens. And what it does is that it steers a lot of the wind flow from the south, and west. So essentially, high pressures across the northern hemispheres, yeah, that's pretty bad, they spin counterclockwise, or sorry, clockwise, so kind of like a clock. So all these little bars, the wind is flowing like this from here. And what we do see is troughing that is kind of coming in from the northwestern portion of our viewing area here. And what that does is, well, low pressure spin counterclockwise, so a completely opposite way. So it's creating this really strong avenue of very strong winds. And what this does is it brings in a lot of moisture relatively far into the United States, as well as very, very warm air, which kind of acts as really good fuel for storm systems. Look at these bars. In the next few slides, I'll show you. This is, by the way, Tuesday. This upcoming Tuesday. So again, nothing this upcoming weekend or into the next few days. But look how these bars kind of continue to tighten. The winds increase. The high pressure at this point is 1030. That's a pretty strong high pressure. Again, that's going to create some pretty calm conditions right under it. But right here where these two things are converging, a lot of moisture, a lot of warm air. I'll show you the temperature anomalies. They're going to be very, very warm. We'll have temperatures well into the 70s, maybe even 80s, as far north as Minnesota, South Dakota. The same areas that got frost just yesterday. So it's going to be a pretty big change up. Now, as I put this forward, do note that the GFS does show this trough eventually make it in, and what that does is, with these two conflicting air masses and with that moisture that's available, it quickly develops a pretty powerful cold front. And you can see that does materialize pretty evidently by late Wednesday into Thursday of this upcoming week across much of Illinois, Wisconsin, Michigan, right? And a lot of cool air behind it. You can see kind of the spearhead of very chilly air behind that. Notice we do see quite a bit of lake effect that starts up behind it. We do have very chilly air behind that. And there's going to be some very strong winds. The jet stream is going to be powerful, and it's usually the most powerful when a jet stream, it's right here for this image, this is how the jet stream would look like. It's usually the most powerful in this quadrant of any given jet stream. So this is where we could start seeing a secondary low pressure develop. Notice, look at those lines of yellow and orange. That's going to indicate some pretty strong thunderstorms, maybe some severe weather, a heavy rain, all of that sort. Notice it becomes vertical, right? It started off being kind of northeast to southwest orientated. Now it's almost completely north to south. And what that does is, as you can see, this kind of closes in on itself and shoots a lot of moisture back into that cold air, producing some snow. Now, the GFS model is one of the models that doesn't really show a snowy scenario. I'll show you a model that I think has a better handle on it, and it shows a lot more snow. I don't think it has a better handle of it because it has more snow, despite me being a snow lover. It's just that it's been more consistent with the storm system, and it's a model that usually has a better reputation. So the GFS, notice that obviously that's already a lot of activity, right? I don't want to focus on the details. I just want to show you the storm system, kind of just give you an overview. So again, this is Thursday during the day. Now this is late Thursday into Friday, right? So the northeast, you're going to be on Friday, and again, you can start seeing several areas of circulation, one up here, maybe one further south as well. And right after that, we see, well, more cold air and another system that brings in more chilly air, more snow showers, more lake effect. and potentially one that kind of stagnates right here across the Great Lakes. Yeah, so you can see it kind of upsets the whole current pattern. It continues pushing a lot of this moisture back into that cold air for a while, and that could definitely be producing quite a bit of snow. So that is that. I don't want to focus, anything further out than that, because then it starts getting really chaotic and it's hard to predict anything even up to 100, 200 hours, let alone 384. So this is the same model, just a previous model run, right, from noon. So I just want to show you that it has been consistent. You could see Thursday, again, it develops that cold front. It develops in that jet stream. It starts creating a low pressure, and this is very typical of storms we see that are especially with the elongated cold front and with a strong jet stream. They shoot a lot of this moisture back into the cold air, producing snow. You can see it doesn't quite do that with this system, but what it does do is still brings in a period of chilly weather. You could see more lake effect, and potentially you could see some sort of a nor'easter maybe. So the models are definitely going pretty crazy with some of these scenarios. Let's go back to the morning one. So this is 60. Again, same model. I just want to show you that this is consistent now. You can see that the high pressure, extremely strong winds. So early week, you won't be getting impacted by extremely big, rains or anything across the Midwest. You might see some showers, a little bit of storms. But what it will be that's going to be noticeable is very strong winds and very warm air. That's going to quickly end once this cold front develops. You could see, again, the exact placement of this is still under question, but it's still rather remarkable that the GFS has been showing it this consistently, right, relatively consistently for this many hours. And notice, some of these colors, that indicates either, very heavy rain, but in this case, most likely with the dynamics of the warm air and a cold air right behind it, probably some decently dangerous severe weather, so we're going to have to monitor that. And notice that, again, it doesn't seem like that thing is just kind of a one singular thing, or that storm isn't just one singular storm. It kind of is a whole part of a pattern. You can see some sort of clippers developing, more blasts of cold air. So for the northeastern and eastern United States, it's really going to feel like a winter, for or at least like November-like weather. For a good few weeks here. I want to show you a different model now, European. So this one, I can argue it's probably a better one in this scenario because it has been showing the storm more consistently. Notice it does the same thing, kicks that cool wave we're dealing with in right now out, and it brings in this high pressure. It strengthens this high pressure relatively quickly, and again, that sets up a lot of these little showers, little storms, very strong winds. You can see, so if you live across the Midwest, Illinois, Michigan, Indiana, sorry about that, you could be dealing with quite a bit of rain already by late Tuesday. Now, there we have that low pressure, which I like this website because it shows you this way into central Canada. And you may be wondering how this random cold front just kind of shows up where the GFS develops this. This is actually part of a much larger system that is way up to the north. It's just that it's so big, the system, we can't even encapsulate it if you look at the entire United States and southern Canada. So it's an absolute ginormous storm. And look, the European quickly starts showing those showers, those storms. It develops that cold front, and what it does differently from the GFS, it again develops earlier. So it's at the strong part of the jet stream earlier on, and it sends a lot of this moisture. And before it picks up speed and starts sprinting off to the east, it shoots it back into this cold air and produces quite a bit of snow for areas like Ontario, into potentially Manitoba. Right, we could be dealing with quite a bit of snow there, and you can see this cold front continues to race across the northeastern United States, gathers a lot of moisture. Again, very cold air behind us, at least for this season. Probably frost every day for those areas. Very, very chilly temperatures. I'll show you that in just a minute, but look at the amount of moisture that is just gathering here across the northeast. So again, this is kind of a multifaceted system, right? So here's like the first part, kind of eats itself up. Then is the second part with all this moisture rising, develops into a new one. That's a monster plume slug of moisture. And then you can see that just like the GFS, it continues showing continued troughing across the United States, eastern and northern United States. More storm systems, more snow, this time even further south. And you can see that affects potentially the UP, Lake Superior, Thunder Bay, areas, southern Ontario. And again, the exact placement of these storms is still unknown, but it seems likely. And you can see that, again, similar to what the GFS does, it kind of leaves a lot of this cold air just kind of lingering here, which could upset the pattern even further. So that is definitely something that is interesting and noteworthy of mentioning. So yes, the first couple of weeks of October for the Great Lakes and Northeast could be rather chilly, and even as far south as the southern United States. So that is that. I do want to show you the total accumulated precipitation from the European model again, especially across the Northeast when this cold front really starts intensifying. Some of these rainfall amounts could be rather impressive. That's not necessarily bad because a lot of these areas are dry. They need some moisture, so that's actually something that let's just say could be encouraging. But if we take a look at the GFS, it's relatively the same story. We have a lot of moisture. Again, you can see boom right there, especially across the Northeast. So that's probably good. And as I put this further out, you can see the Northeast does remain active, which is good. A lot of New England is kind of in a drought. It's just that the severe weather is maybe something we don't necessarily want as much of. And yeah, let me show you now the temperatures, right? So again, I don't want to get into the details of this because this is still relatively far out. At least at the earliest, this is going to start occurring Wednesday, the kind of this cold front and a larger system. Again, the setups are going to be kind of in place already earlier, which gives me confidence that the system is going to probably occur at least similarly to what the models are showing. It's not just going to come out of nowhere, or change out of nowhere, as there's a lot of key things that we're looking for that are already kind of taking shape. And let me take a look at the anomalies. So I want to click on this. So this is just showing us where the temperatures are below or above average in what given time based on historical climatology. Notice what we do have currently going on is that current cool down that brought a lot of chilly air, first frost freezes to the United States. But look at the west and southwestern Canada. Very, very warm conditions. This cool down will quickly move out. Again, I've been talking about that in the past several videos. It will be a very, very quick shot of cool air, and the warm air will move in right back in. What this does is, again, it sets a lot of moisture and warm air far into the United States and allows that storm system to take advantage of it and become much stronger. Notice some of the temperatures you'll be seeing the first few days of this week, especially across really anywhere across the United States, excluding maybe for the first few days across the Northeast where that cool down is still occurring. It will be very warm, potentially some records being broken, especially across maybe Quebec and Ontario. But then we quickly start seeing this cool down occur. The first one with the actual storm isn't as powerful. It obviously brings in a decent shot of cool air, but what's more interesting is that secondary one and kind of the flow that it starts with that system. Those could become a lot more intense, and of course, where things go down, they must go up. So you can see while the eastern and northern United States is stuck in a very kind of almost wintry-like pattern for October, the West is stuck in an absolute ridiculous heat wave, and that's just absolutely not good because of the wildfire risks and the drought that is ongoing there and could get worsened because of that. So thankfully, it isn't July, so you won't be dealing with hundreds up here, though you will still see abnormally, warm temperatures. And, areas elsewhere, again, look, the South, this affects pretty much everyone east of at least the Mississippi. But honestly, by the looks of this, I would say east of the kind of the plain states, or where really east of the Rockies even, you could say. The 2-meter temperature shaded, you can see again, right, you won't be dealing with bitter cold, but you will be chilly. You will be pretty much dealing with frost every day across these areas. And if this pattern continues for a while, you could be getting days that are upper 40s, mid 40s, lower 50s for the South every day for a good while. Obviously, there will be warmer days, cooler days in between these cool downs, but it seems, again, if the GFS and European array, as soon as one moves in, another one moves out. Or as soon as one moves out, another one moves in. So that's definitely something that's impressive with this pattern and how long it could actually hold on to. And that's going to be kind of bad for the West, where you could be dealing with a lot of this warm air. And again, these are very warm temperatures. This may not seem warm, but 60s way up here this late in the year, those are some ridiculous anomalies. Again, you're not going to be dealing with hundreds or 90s, but that's still very, very warm. You could be easily dealing with large snowstorms at this time of the year, let alone 70s or 60s, right? So that is that. And the European, very similar forecast. It doesn't go out as far as the 384, but for the first 240 hours that it does show, it shows very similar features. Again, there's that warm up out ahead of that big system. There's that cool down, the initial cool down. Then we do see maybe a brief interruption of warm air, but right after that we see another impressive cool down of very chilly air. You can see Ohio, Indiana dealing with obviously probably even the epicenter of this, so Honestly, yeah, it's kind of impressive how long this pattern will be able to hold on, and it's not really clear whether or not it will abate after mid-October. Even if it does, it's still an impressively long pattern. And again, you can see the west being pretty warm during this time. So, again, it may not be catastrophic. Hopefully, it's not. Though, again, the biggest threat is definitely the wildfire danger because 70s or 60s, that's what you're probably going to be mostly dealing with here because it is later on in the year. So, it's just not going to be as warm as it would have been if this same anomaly occurred in, July. But, for certain cities, this is still going to be pretty darn warm. And, but again, I would argue that for a lot of these areas, it's actually probably going to feel nice. Maybe like Denver, kind of a nice warm fall. But again, it's kind of a cursed thing because as soon as I say that, there could be like a massive wildfire, and then it's like, oh well, yeah. But you can see a lot of the United States is going to be dealing with cooler air. That seems to be more and more likely. If you look at the ensembles, which go out far as 384 hours. And these ensembles are basically just an amazing feature to utilize because of how averaged of a look they give you. You don't have to chase every individual model to get a kind of a good scope of things. Because in a weather community, you take a look at one model, it shows something. You have to look at others to see if there's if there's agreement. If there's agreement, then that most likely means there's validity to that claim. And this kind of just gives you an overall look. So if they're showing a warm up, you can see that the models here, the GEFS show a much warmer pattern late October. There's a good chance, well, it's far out, but there's a good chance that with how strong they're showing it here, we might flip back to a warmer pattern in October. And obviously, that makes sense because as impressive as this cool down will be, and these cooldowns will be, I don't think it'll last for awfully too long. I mean, they usually don't. So again, there's that warm up. There's that big storm. You can see they show that pretty impressively how distinctly they show that even out to 100 hours. And again, this is an ensemble, so not just one model. And there again, there's that initial cooldowns. There's that second one that could be more powerful. And again, a lot of areas potentially seeing their first snows, especially across southern Canada. But according to these models, it does seem that in the future we may be looking at more of a warmer pattern. European ensembles, so these are also the same thing as the GFS ensemble in terms of how they're put together, but obviously just different family. So they're gonna have some disagreements, though. Really remarkable, they show those two cooldowns, the warm air that's consistent, and then potentially the warm air becoming more dominant in long range. So that is that for today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. And yeah, I'll keep you guys definitely more updated on this upcoming system. I just want to see if the snowfall accumulations. Yeah, you can see a lot of areas potentially getting their first snows here. So definitely interesting. All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next episode. See ya. Bye.